All right guys, welcome back to the channel. So today's video, I've already gone over what I'm taking on this hunting trip, but how am I getting there and how am I traveling personally? If I had the option to, which I'm sure like most of you do, you probably drive to your hunting destination. For me to travel to Montana in the middle of the racing season, it's just not possible to drive. I mean, sure I can drive, but I'm going to waste 2.5 days just driving, and I can take those 2.5 days and go hunting with them. So for the condensed time hunting window that I have, driving is just not an option. Flying is really the only option for me. I've done this in the past. I flew to Colorado last year. I've flown to all the TAC events that I've been to. So I'm gonna show you guys how I pack my gear. My number one priority when I'm flying is to check as least amount of gear as possible, especially on the way out. It'd be heartbreaking to get out there and just not have like my case get flown somewhere else instead of my destination. So I'm gonna show you guys how I pack this and how I track my equipment when I'm flying. There's some stuff that you just have to check. That's just a non-negotiable, like knives, broadheads, bow, that kind of gear I just have to check. So that goes into my bow case. And I try to keep this bow case under 50 pounds so I don't have to pay an excess bag fee. On the way out there, the only thing I check is the bow case. I carry my backpack on, which has a lot of gear in it and all my food. And I carry my camera bag, which right now is on the table. But that pretty much just has my camera and my personal belongings, like an extra pair of pants, change of clothes so I can go to the racetrack once the hunt's over. So I'm gonna unpack all of this gear and I'm gonna show you guys exactly how I pack it. The cooler that I'm sitting on does not come with me. These are the only two things that we're gonna be going over. All right, before I get too deep into this pack video, there is one piece of gear that I do wanna touch on. I just picked these up. These are like a dry duffel bag from Cabela's. I can get all my gear there, but how am I gonna get my meat home? And for me, this is when I don't care about how many bags I'm checking on the way back. So I picked these bags up. They weigh about 4 pounds a piece. So I can put about 45 pounds of processed game meat in these bags. They're supposed to be waterproof, and one of the only ways that the airlines will throw your gear out is if it's leaking fluids. It can stink, they can't throw it out. It can be odd shaped, they can't throw it out. It can be ripped, they can't throw it out. But if it's leaking fluid, especially blood, they'll throw it out. A waterproof bag is supposed to keep water out. It should keep water in. If there is any fluids, if anything does start to de-thaw, it should keep it in. Your game meat does have to be frozen if you're checking it and you're flying with it. This should work. I have 2 of these right now, and I'll pick up a 3rd one if I am successful and I do need more room, and I will start adding those up and checking those bags. But they weigh less than a cooler, so you can carry more meat per bag than you can a cooler. A cooler, let's say this Grizzly cooler weighs 20 pounds to start with. I only can put 30 pounds of meat in it. It doesn't really matter how big it is. And looking at the baggage fees, especially on American, the more bags you check, the price goes up a little bit, but the heavier the bags you check, the price increase exponentially. Like a check bag is $30, the second one is $40, but a 70-pound bag versus a 50-pound bag is a $100 upcharge. So I would rather check 2 50-pound bags than 1 70-pound bag. I'm gonna put these in. I'm traveling with these. I haven't actually used them, so I don't really have a review on them, or I don't even know if they're worth shit, but these are one of the first things that I'm putting in my pack. Put them at the bottom and absolutely just cram them in there as hard as I can. And as soon as I get to where I'm going, these are gonna come out, just go in the backseat of my vehicle. That's one of the ways I'm going to get game meat home. But we're talking about getting out there, so let's pack this thing. Like I said, I'm gonna fold these as tight as I can get them, and all the way in the bottom they go. Get these pushed all the way in the bottom. The next thing I'm gonna pack is my sleeping bag. Last year I laid this on my bow case, but this year this bag's a lot smaller. It takes up a lot less room in my backpack, so I'm going to cram it into here. When I packed everything, it fit well. Again, I'm just pushing all this stuff down as far as I can get it. In the front, before I get too far packing everything, this is where I'm gonna put my rain gaiters, my hat, socks, underwear. Zip this up in the backpack. Now, I carry my food with me. I've pre-packaged all my food here in North Carolina. For me, it's a time saver. I buy all my stuff. I don't get all my stuff at the same store. Some of it comes from REI, some of it comes from online, some of it comes from Target, some of it comes from Harris Teeter grocery store. So it all comes from somewhere else. You could do your shopping once you get out there, if you have time, that would definitely save you on weight and space in your bag. But for me, I'm gonna land and I'm headed straight into the unit. So I don't wanna I'm trying to be as streamlined as possible. So I like to have all my meals and my food prepackaged before I go. So that way I'm not scrounging, trying to figure out what I need and go through a shopping list. It's already done. All I have to do is go. This is 5 days worth of individually day bagged snacks. This is all the stuff that I'm gonna be eating throughout the day, all the stuff I'm gonna be snacking on. And this is just here in the dry bag. Stuff this in here. Then I have this baggie right here. This has got all of my peak refuels, my meals, my coffees, an extra ramen noodle or two just in case I get hungry and I'm starting to get a little low on food. This goes in right on the top. So one of the last things that I pack into my backpack is my bino harness with my binoculars and rangefinder. They're not light either, so this adds up in the bow case really quick, especially when I'm trying to keep that under 50 pounds. So this is a little bit heavier and it's a little denser. That's why it's coming with me in my pack. The last thing I have is my lid, and this is usually gonna be on the outside, but I actually just pack it into my bag. It's less stuff to get caught up, and I don't know, there's just less straps hanging out. Here's my backpack ready to go. This is what I'm going to be putting in the overhead when I get on the plane. I would recommend, if you're flying, if you can get a preferred seating assignment, I would recommend it because this thing does take up a little bit of room in the overhead. It's not really that big, it's just bulky. To prevent me from gate checking it, I have pre-selected a better boarding time than because I don't have status anywhere, even though I fly every weekend. All right, so one of the first things I'll do to pack out this case is I'll take some of my clothes and I'll pack them in the corners, lay them out as flat as I can get them. It's just additional padding for the bow, for the gear, for that kind of stuff. Just lay it out. Got a few things on here right now. Take the bow. I really like the Sitka Sling because these are protected, so it kind of helps protect the cams as much as I can. I like to take my medical kit and put it underneath the sight. So the sight's not actually touching the bottom over here, or if it is, it's barely touching. And I don't like to take my sight off, especially with this bridge lock. I can get it to fit in here, and when I traveled to TAC, I didn't have any problems. So for my first aid kit underneath, just kind of gives it something to rest on. Take a core lightweight, take my tent spikes, wrap them up in it, stick them under the riser. I'll take these pants, take my stabilizers, wrap them up very loosely in it and stick them here. Trekking poles and wedge them in the front. So here I have that rain gear, and I'm going to take this and wedge this at the very bottom so that way it gives something for the limbs to sit on. It's cushioned. And then here up at the top, I'm going to do the exact same but with my tent. I'm going to get this tent and just wedge it in here on the limbs. And it gets this bow really secure, and it's not gonna go anywhere. The secure this bow is, the more they can bang it around, and the less I'm worried about something coming loose or undone. And then I just kind of backfill wherever I think I have room. So sleeping pad, kill kit. This is my jet boil. Make sure when you pack your jet boil, you do not take the fuel canister, because if there is a fuel canister in here, they will go through your bow case to get it out. You're not allowed to fly with those, so make sure it's out. I have an extra case of broadheads, just in case. This is my rehydrate pouch for my meals. This is my arrow tube, and in here I have my arrows that are glued up with my broadheads on them. This is taped so it will not expand, and it is also taped so the lid will not come off. And this is a pretty hard, thick plastic. I'm not worried about them poking through. So I actually take these and put it right here, kind of on top of the cams. And that holds really well. It keeps everything, again, pushed down once the top folds onto it. And I've traveled like that a few times now, and I have had absolutely no problems. Sitting pad. Bugle tube, I'll take this and like my stocking socks or my sleep socks, and I'll just stuff them in here to kind of fill that dead space, and stick this wherever I can get it. Appears to be about everything. Quiver, and the last little bit of clothing, I'll just kind of lay on the top best I can. So I told you guys I would show you how I keep track of my gear. So down here in this foam that is glued into the case, I actually put a slit, and I have an air tag. It's just an Apple air tag. You can get the Tile or any other of these tracking devices, and I have it registered to my phone, and I stick this in here. It doesn't update in real time, but it updates every few minutes. So this kind of gives me a good idea where my stuff is. So this is actually my bow scale. This will be coming with me on the trip. It's going to be in this case, but this is so I can weigh those bags out if I do have to fill them up with meat and my bow case on the way back, so I can make sure it falls under that 50-pound range so I don't incur those extra overweight baggage fees. But the weight on this, as it's loaded, is 48.4 pounds. All right, thank you guys for watching this video. As you can see, everything that I need for my Montana elk hunt, I can get into these 2 bags, into this bow case and into this backpack. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that I try to pack into this bow case is the stuff I have to pack, like knives, broadheads, bow, stuff that they would frown upon if you had in your carry-on bag. Everything I try to put in here, I want to maximize the room and the space that I have to get me to that 50-pound limit. Sure, I could have put my food and binoculars into my bow case, but what ends up happening is this probably will weigh closer to 60 pounds if I started putting some of that dense stuff into this case instead of clothes and tent, the lighter stuff. And all that stuff adds as more protection to the bow inside. So I like to kind of pack all that stuff like around it, underneath it, around the cams, and just try to make everything a nice fit. The more loose stuff you have floating around, the more likelihood you have of damaging something. If everything is kind of crammed in here pretty tight, it's harder to damage it because it's all kind of being smushed together, but there is a point where you can cram too much stuff into here. Again, the backpack is where I'm carrying all my dense stuff, all my food, binoculars, those dry bags in case I do get to meet and get to bring it home. Highly recommend weighing your bag or your bow case before you go to the airport so you're not that guy in the ticket counter who is unpacking his stuff and trying to get it into the backpack. The one thing you guys did not see me pack into either one of these is my boots, and that's because I'm going to wear those on the plane. Wearing gear onto the plane is another great option for not having to pack it and saving yourself space, but if you're wearing all your camo into the airport, well, that's on you. Be my guest doing it, you're not gonna be camouflaged at all. Thank you guys for following along. If you're someone who's flying to some of your hunts and you found this helpful, hit that like button down below. If you have any questions on the way I pack this stuff or anything about flying with gear, please shoot me a comment, shoot me a message on social media, on Instagram, and stay tuned, guys. We have a lot of great hunts coming up. I got this Montana elk hunt I'm leaving for this weekend. I got 6 whitetail tags here in North Carolina. I just drew a bear tag in North Carolina, and we got a mule deer tag in Montana, and might be doing another mule deer hunt in Nebraska at the end of the year. So got a lot of great stuff coming up. Be subscribed to the channel, stay tuned, follow along. Until next time, I'm Jeff Cordero, and we'll check you out on the next video.